This is Festival Past Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next. All right, friends, welcome back. This is Festival Past Stories, a podcast that is told by the people who make and create festivals and make them come to life. And we take you behind the stage door, the kitchen door, the studio door to hear those stories of passion and inspiration to some of the world's most beloved festivals. Every festival has a story, and every festival needs good Wi-Fi. And she provides it, along with many other technology services for festivals. And so my guest is the VP of Strategy and Operations for FestiFi and the founder of Women in Production. And wait for it. And she's the editor of Kaffeine Buzz. That's caffeine with a K. Please welcome the great Kim Owens.
Hello.
Yeah, it's Kim. It didn't say the great Kim Owens, but I'm going to go with that.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well,
I'll
thank
go with
you.
that.
I appreciate that, Pat.
We live in the world of the slash economy, and you have outslashed me by one slash. I'm a host, auctioneer, podcast host. You have outslashed me, so well done. I bow to you.
I think, honestly, I think a lot of us in this industry have a lot of slashes and hats that we wear, to be honest. That's why our LinkedIn profile lines are so long.
Yeah.
we max out the character count.
You have to click to read more about everybody's just title these days. I promised you we'd have a fun, interesting conversation, but I didn't want to hit you with any hard questions, but I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to go back on my word and ask you the toughest question of 2020. How are you?
I am doing great. And I have to say that because I am healthy. All of my family is healthy. And while the business that I'm in is at a standstill, I work with great people, and I have a wonderful meditation practice. I have all my faculties about me, and I have a great group of friends. So I am focusing every day on gratitude.
That's very well said. And maybe the shortest answer I've had for that on the podcast. Sometimes I'm like, well, we kind of have to go. We had 9 other questions to ask, but we're out of time.
Well, I've done a lot of processing in the last few months. So if you would have asked me that 3 months ago or 2 months ago, yeah, you would have had to have a 2-hour podcast.
But it's a great attitude to have during a time where there is so much uncertainty. Yes. You and I both agree that this is also a time of incredible change, an historic moment that we're having right now from a social justice standpoint. I think from a small business standpoint, where so many small businesses are hurting, yet other people are starting small businesses or small projects or creative projects, and what could come of those. So I guess we will see down the road. And one of those great things that started during COVID, during quarantine in the year 2020, is Women in Production, a group that you've started. And I just wanted to read this directly from you. That it is a brand new, and you weren't kidding about a brand new synergistic global network of powerful co-creators leading the transformation of events worldwide. Our vision is to connect and collaborate so we all play a role in building the next generation of events. That's a mouthful. It's a powerful statement. But when you say the next generation of events, what do you mean by that?
One of the things that this time has allowed us to do, which us in the events industry, we are so busy all the time that we don't have really any time, maybe in the winter months, a little bit to reflect. What are we doing that's working? What are we doing that's not working? Now throw on top of that COVID, and what are events going to look like once we actually get back to the ability to do them in a safe, effective manner? So we're having to transform how we do everything from the top to the bottom, not having any more paper tickets. It's going strictly contactless payment. And then the health and safety factor, that's one of the things actually that's a pillar within Women in Production. We have a few pillars that we've started with, and that's one key one. Jesse Barnes is the CEO and founder of SafeWise, which is a a health and safety, basically services organization. She's got 27 certificates in health and safety, from everything from a small event to a large production. With
I have zero certificates in health and safety.
Me too, which is why we're so grateful to have her as part on the team. And so
she has one more slash than we do.
Yes, she definitely does. And I take one of my hats off to her.
I can see the hats behind you. You actually have a hat rack.
I actually do have it. And I have even more, like down the hall. You know, this is something that needs to be taken really seriously because people's lives are at stake.
Yes.
So in addition to people's lives, our businesses are at stake. So if we start doing these things wrong, we're going to go right back. You know, as an industry, we need to collaborate more than ever. And so reframing what security looks like, even to the level, and I'm speaking for myself here, I want to see personally if and how we can actually reduce the number of police officers that we hire for events. That's a sector of the events that is very, very expensive. It costs millions of dollars. And I am asking the question, is that the most effective way to provide security? Is there a way for us to up the level of security organizations that exist, even unionized security organizations, provide additional training, being able to do, you know, medical and emergency and especially de-escalation, which the police have not actually, you know, been very good at even after all of their training. So these are all these questions that we're asking about what is health and safety going to look like, what are operations going to look like, and how we can make events better, safer.
I was asking one of the, we were talking about NIVA, the National Independent Venue Association, which is a wonderful organization of these small stages, music stages and around the country. And they have not been represented during COVID and they are shut down. And the owners of these businesses are footing the bill to make sure that they can keep as many people on staff as possible. And I asked that question to him. I said, because of everything you're seeing right now, will we see a difference in the way that you provide security for events? And that was exactly the response was, yeah, we're going to have to look at this. I think there's going to be certain events where if people see a heavy police presence, they might just get a refund on their ticket. They may not want to be a part of it. I would disagree with the security people should not also be doing the medical side of things. I think that might be how we got in a problem where sometimes in some cities, we've asked police to also be mental health workers and so on. So if while we go through this historic transformation of police departments, hopefully around the country, can we also just make sure that all they do is policing and not handle mental health issues? They should, of course, be part of de-escalation before anything gets heavy-handed or anything else. But sometimes at a festival, I've seen it myself, I'm sure you've seen it, there's alcohol there, there's young, aggressive people at festivals, depending on the type of music. You know, if there's, you know, when I was going to the original Lollapaloozas, there were mosh pits.
Oh, and, no, I was there at those original Lollapaloozas, for sure.
And there were
those
fights.
Mosh pits now. I mean, the very last concert I went to was at the Viper Room, so a small venue. Yeah. And it was this old school punk rock band that I cannot think of right now, but you know, they'd been around for 30 something years. And so it's like,
it's a safe place to be.
Mosh pits have not gone away. So yeah, believe me, all of those things, plus, you know, sweating and spitting. And I mean, you just name it. This is the thing about being a music fan is that, you know, I miss my concerts and everything, but geez, you know, when I just envisioning being back there only like back in early March, it kind of gives me the heebies, you know, to think about that.
Even something like a Broadway show where you don't really have to worry about security at a Broadway show. People are usually pretty calm. Some people are overserved. I think there should be security for the jerks who leave their phones on, and those people should be put into an arm bar and be thrown out the building. I'll help with that. I'll get heavy-handed when it comes to that. Um, you know,
Some Broadway shows actually require you to put your phone into one of those little security envelopes.
yeah.
The Love Supreme, the Lin-Manuel Miranda, is one of the ones that I went to last October in New York. And yeah, they made us put our phones in there. But I did see a couple people who snuck theirs in somehow to take a picture. Like, what are you doing?
I know. And there's comedy shows as well. Like somebody was,
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle has really, there's been so much going on in the social justice movement. Dave's like, I just got to get out there and do stand up and just put a couple.
I saw that
specials.
Netflix special. It was really interesting. And I was looking at it from a back of house perspective. I'm like, okay, so they're taking the temperature. Oh, and then they got the seats, separated a certain way. And he's just standing there going, this is weird.
Yeah.
Like, I bet it is.
But he showed up for something recently. I heard somebody else talking about it. And because people had phones, they didn't take the phones away. Chappelle looks out in the crowd and he sees, 50 people doing this. And he's like, well, let's just talk. And Dave does, he doesn't want to waste any new material because that's going to be on YouTube and Twitter in 3 seconds.
No,
so,
he did an amazing job. I was really moved by what he had to say in a very short, succinct amount of time, to be honest. And it was really compelling.
He seems to be, I only know him as a funny guy, but he seems to be a very sincere human being who truly cares about people. And I think one of the reasons he walked away from a massive contract with Comedy Central is because he felt he was doing comedy that was too stereotypical against Black people. I mean, it seemed like that was one of the reasons that he was like, I think we're just doing too much stuff that's just negative. I want to get back to doing some other things. I'm a big fan of Dave and everything he's doing now and then too. But back to women in production. With everything happening, I know it's a small group, but were you able to highlight Black women in production and give them a platform to get their personal message out?
Well, this is starting off fairly small with people that I know. The thing that's really the focus is to expand that greatly. In the middle of doing women in production, I'm still trying to do marketing for FestiFi, and I'm still trying to do all of these things. So we're trying to share as much of this as possible. But one of the things that I feel is really important is that I want Black women and women of color to be in leadership roles and to lead initiatives. So initiatives that can range in various scope and size. So it is absolutely critical that we elevate Black women in the events industry. I mean, that's one of the key reasons why I started it. Not only just women in general. When I was in tech in Silicon Valley, I was only one woman, in a whole group. I just did a site walk, and bless these guys, but I was, again, the only one woman in this site walk. This event is going to happen for 1.5 years to 2 years, but this industry, like every single other industry, is really lacking in Black people representation, and in addition to people in leadership roles. So, elevating Black women's voices and giving them an open door to make their voices known, and to also address all the other facets of the industry that go along with that, from mentorship to career development and career path to training, to be able to welcome women that may be in other industries into our industry and provide them with mentorship and guidance on any area that they want to go into. And to also, enable women to go from one area of the industry to the other.
Meaning what exactly? Like meaning from behind the camera, you can go to the front of the camera, or...
Well, I mean, you have to think about all the different areas of the industry. So I'm in the IT and Wi-Fi connectivity. We come in and do all of the back of house internet, which everything relies on internet now. So if you don't have internet, you don't have a festival or an event. There's staging, there's lighting, there's food and beverage, all of these different facets of the industry. And that's just festival and entertainment. When you talk to sports, there's agencies and there's all of that, when you're talking meetings and conferences, exhibitions, the actual breadth of the industry is huge. It's just we've never actually come together, and I want to shout out Live Events Coalition that was also formed during COVID that has come about since this time. They're spreading a wide net in order to get the lobbying arm and get some federal funding and do some advocacy on behalf of the events industry. So, collaboration is also really key. Because I talked with Eileen, who's one of the founders and who's going to be presenting to the group next week for Women in Production, the Health and Safety Alliance, and what they're doing. So we're seeing more collaboration and unity than we never had before, which I'm really excited about. In addition to being able to have opportunities to become more diverse and more inclusive. And what does that look like? And how do we get there? And if we don't know how to get there, how can we find the people to help us to do it in the right way that's respectful, that's supportive, that's positive, and come out the other side of this a much more rich and healthy industry, and one that's going to thrive and really benefit all of us and not just some of us.
And all this work is being done now to make sure that when we do get to the other side of this,
right,
it's like, okay, we've got a festival coming up. All right, it's paperless tickets, it's contactless payments, it's all these things.
Right.
I've been working with the Live Events Coalition because that's my business as well, being from the nonprofit side of things.
Right.
So I've been working with the venues that like in New York City, Gotham Hall and Cipriani and places like that are empty. And they were hosting 150 nonprofit events a year, plus weddings and bar mitzvahs and other big corporate events. And none of that is happening. And that industry is finally getting a little traction as well, where they weren't getting any love from the government. The government's like, well, you're a hotel. They saw them as a hotel. It's like, we're not a hotel. So I've been listening in with them and all of the great people that are involved there, from the musicians. There's a group in New York called Hank Lane Orchestra. And Hank Lane represents 10 bands. And those bands, all they do are private events. And they're all party starters. They're all great. Like we had one at my wedding. And all of that business is completely gone. Some of them were doing it as a side gig, but a lot of them were so good. It was just, and they were so busy doing these charity events and weddings. They were working 6 nights a week, and it was their full-time job. So the numbers are staggering. The amount of people in the industry is staggering, and the financial effect on the national economy is also, for lack of a better word, staggering. And on the other side of this, let's hope for those better days. Your Women in Production startup is not a multi-million-dollar well-funded startup. You're doing this because you have passion for this.
Yes.
And these are your colleagues, and the women inspire you, and you want a better future in events for them, which is fantastic. But you do have a daytime job at FestiFi. And since nobody has needs Wi-Fi right now for events, you have other technology solutions. What are you doing right now? Are you mostly consulting with clients, or what are you doing right now to keep FestiFi moving forward?
Well, we are in the process of researching new technologies, reforming some of our products and making them better, some of our solutions and making them better, especially on the cellular side. And we're focusing on, doing more marketing and branding and reaching out to our partners and cultivating more business-to-business type of partnerships for collaborative solutions. Periodically, we do have these little small projects that, like one I was on 2 days ago, where we delivered a connectivity solution to just kind of help boost the internet at this one studio with Cedric the Entertainer, which took place here in Beverly Hills. A couple months before, in May, there was another studio with a green screen that enabled this DJ and some of the producers to put together a quote unquote rave, so to speak, with green screen, and they had created all of the visual content already. It was just a matter of actually utilizing that for those specific DJs. It was really fun, so again, it's all, we're masked. There's not that many people there. We're showing up and doing the connectivity side of it with our mobile road cases, which is essentially cellular mobile hotspot, but it's much, much more robust than your average one would be. Okay. So we can support multiple connectivities. It runs off of cellular, and it enables them to, if they even have existing internet, but they need more and they can't get it, because sometimes ISPs, especially, I don't know why in Hollywood, the ISPs around here don't do a great job. So, it just helps to benefit the operation by doing that. So there's little individual things, and that's actually going back to Women in Production. One of the other committees that we've created is the Virtual Hybrids Committee. So what can we do that's like the Teed Up Golf Tournament, where it was some people are in person and then the rest of people are live streaming on Twitch. So what does that look like? What do you have to do? What is the process? Not only, you have to build your strategy just like everything else. What are we trying to accomplish? Who's the audience? What's the talent? What's the content? All of these things have to still be taken into account. And so we have some really amazing women from the industry, and I'm on that committee as well, into how we can still engage with audiences. And we're not making money. Nobody's making money right now, but we are all still wanting to keep the industry moving forward in terms of creating new solutions, new experiences that we never would have thought of or had the time to think of before. And so, that's what's keeping me busy. And in terms of, also creating blog content around some of these projects, and then do some cross-pollination between FestiFi, Women in Production, all of these things. So there's a lot going on, even though we're not really making money right now.
I'm not making money either, so congratulations to both of us.
We can all high-five ourselves distantly on that.
But I've kept myself busy with a lot of consulting with clients about where we're going to be later on this fall, or what we can do virtually, and put together a few dozen virtual events. People are like, well, we want to get back on stage and do that gala, so we're going to punt to next year. So get gala out of your head. Forget gala. Right. Nobody wants to sit there and watch talking heads for 5 hours.
Right.
Give them an experience. Every one of these organizations has deep pockets and deep connections. I'm like, I guarantee somebody on your board of directors knows or is an investor in a winery in California. And they're like, well, actually, yeah, there is somebody. I said, great, let's do a virtual wine tasting. Not testing, definitely a tasting. It's also a test.
A whole nother thing.
Test. Yeah. It's too much.
There's not enough tests.
Yeah, not enough tests. Everybody can get a test. Everybody get a wine test. Okay. But I said, do a wine tasting, do a game show. We can do trivia nights and make it a team building exercise. Mm-hmm. Sell virtual tables to people and have them go and do peer-to-peer fundraising. It's $5,000 to have a trivia team, and we can raise lots of money. And don't speak for your donors; they still will support because they love what you do. And don't let them say, "Okay, I guess we'll see you in 2021," because if you don't stay relevant with them, they might find somebody else to support, and then you'll really lose.
Exactly. It is so, so important. I love your point on that, because it's so important for us to stay engaged with our audiences, with the people that, were coming to the festivals, the people that were, that we were doing business with. And even, we've been checking in. A lot of people talk about checking in with your loved ones. I think it's important to check in with the people that you've been working with as well. Sure. And that's another thing, that we've been doing at FestiFi, and checking in with our partners and even former clients or clients who had to put all of their projects on hold, because it really did stop dead in its tracks. Mid-March is when I typically head to South by for 11 days and then head right into Coachella after that. And then it's just like, you're off to the races, and there are no races. So it's, it's so important to stay creative. We're all creative people. Like, we should be the ones that
Yeah.
should be creating all of these different things. And then seeing, if there's any organizations that are actually have a social justice impact or something along those lines to offer, our services for them and support them if they are kind of trying to make their way through all of this virtual world that we're in right now.
Very well said. And it's nothing wrong with just reaching out to a client and saying, hey, how are you? What's going on?
Yep.
We haven't talked in a while. And they're like, well,
Yeah.
it's nice to see that. And like, they're like, is there an invoice attached to this? No, right? There definitely isn't right now. There's no invoice, but
Right. It's a relationship based industry, organization, and business. So
yeah.
we're all about relationships. Yeah.
And you were on that hamster wheel all year long, from event to event to festival to festival. And now it's like we're taking that pause and we're able to take some inventory about the stuff that really, really matters, but also to put some more time to these things that we wanted to do, like women in production. You're like, this is a group that needs to be out there. We are going to highlight the great women in this business, and we are going to lift up women in this business that deserve that chance. So I'm glad that we've both kept ourselves very busy, even though our bank accounts may not say that. So who cares?
I think this is the way our industry is, though. We're also used to being busy, that if we don't have anything to do, we find things to do.
Yeah. Like the one / we haven't covered yet is Kaffeine Buzz, caffeine with a K. You've been covering technology through Kaffeine Buzz. It's like you were ready to roll right into virtual events. You saw this coming. This VAR, any of this futuristic stuff. You were already looking at this, testing it out. But what's Kaffeine Buzz doing now?
So Kaffeine Buzz, I have to be honest, has been a bit neglected over the months because I've been so focused on not only marching and social advocacy and on Twitter, but all of the other projects that I've done. But the one I am refocusing on revising the website. What it has been historically, it started off when I moved from the Bay Area to Denver in 2002. I had been a music journalist there, just working for zines and so forth. And I didn't really see a lot of coverage of local music at that time. And so I launched Kaffeine Buzz as a way to do that. And then it evolved from just being focused on music to being focused on film, and then culture, and then social impact. And so, the majority of the articles right now, honestly, are basically a subset of Kaffeine Buzz, which is called Inside Out. And it's bringing the voices of the incarcerated out to the public. And so I am in partnership with a young man, Dante Owens, who is currently incarcerated, life sentence in Colorado State Penitentiary. And he shares his experiences of what life is like inside the prison and all the different variances of social justice. And from his perspective, he's actually from Compton. And one of his latest pieces that I'm working on to get published, so he writes me in a hand letter, and I write them up and I type them up and publish them out. So one of the recent ones is going to have his perspective of Black Lives Matter. So he's also, shared his experience of what it's like to be in prison during COVID as well. And so, that content I want to keep going, in addition to other social justice impact content and social impact entertainment, which is, music and film and culture that has a social impact thread throughout it. And so that's the other content that I'm actually working on to get published after I do the redesign of the site and all of that. So it's just adding more to the list.
Yeah. And that's interesting that you say that. When I was talking to Steven Sternshine from one of the NEVA leaders and also owner of multiple venues, deeply involved in South by Southwest, he was saying, we were talking about charity and in regards to festivals, and I was saying so many good festivals have a charity element to it, and he said, I don't see how any can go forward without having a social impact message, or a social justice or social injustice message. there are people across the board who are seeing exactly what you said there. Social impact entertainment. I think
Yes.
that's a nice meeting in the middle from the festival world and social justice world coming together through entertainment. Just with Caffeine Buzz, from the other side of it, I mean, and I'm looking forward to reading some of these. Insight Out or Inside Out, it's called?
Insight.
Insight Out. Okay.
INSIGHT. Yes.
All right. So we'll find out. You're going to tell us in a little while how we can find out more about that. But from the technology side, as I was saying, you were ready, so to speak, to cover virtual events or to give advice, maybe, or share best practices, maybe even on virtual events. But are you an advocate for virtual events, or do you see this just as a stopgap? Or a third side of it, do you see that there will always be some sort of virtual level to every event or festival going forward?
I think that there will be a virtual event to every festival moving forward, because what that does is it enables more people to access the event that cannot either afford to be there or can't travel. And I think that traveling and the affordability, I mean, the economic impact that it's made on cities, on individuals, on businesses, is going to impact us for a long time.
Sure.
Then add to that the inability not only to financially afford to travel, but also the actual travel aspect and how well that's going. So I think there's all these different factors that Comic-Con had their virtual Comic-Con 2020 this past week, and I thought it was great. The only thing that we miss, that we have been discussing in our virtual and hybrid events committee, is you have to have more engagement from the audience. One of the things that is really important, if you think about a conference, for example, going to South by, one of the key things is that you get to meet with the speakers afterwards. You have that line of people that wait to get business cards after the fact. I think that's one of the things that Revolt TV and their summit that they had here in Los Angeles was excellent about. Master P is actually talking with, he's all about elevating Black business and Black people to have ownership. And, he's walking the walk. He's giving them his contact information. Those are the kinds of things that if we can incorporate that into the virtual space and enable the people to actually also converse with each other, that's the one thing that I'm seeing missing from some of these virtual conferences and events. From the festival side of things, or the performances, I think that's a little more difficult because it's a one-way thing going on, so you have the performer and then you have the audience. So I think that's where we need to actually get a little bit more creative and also enable people to meet each other, because people have met each other at festivals and ended up getting married,
Yes.
So, whether that can happen in the virtual space or not, I don't know. You're not right there next to the person, so you don't have that in-person chemistry. So it's a little different, but I think that we're just at the tipping point. Even though we've done all of this research, and there's all these people who actually know virtual and VR and AR much, much better than I do. They have this wealth of information. It's about getting those people to share that information and at a broader level. But you also have, again, you have the core strategy behind your event and what you're trying to accomplish. Like what was it about? What were the good things about the in-person event? What were not good things? And how can we poured over the good things into the virtual and also address the not so good things through the virtual as well?
Well, hey, with virtual events, we don't have to worry about security. So there's outside of somebody hacking in.
Yes, exactly. I'm not going to wear my mask. 3 beers in or whatever. Yeah. No.
I was 3 beers in last night and I still had my mask on. I mean, I was pulling the mask down to drink the beer, but I was putting it back. The fact that has gone political is just
it's so silly,
so disappointing.
Well, I'm not surprised that it happened since we voted in who we voted in 2016. What I am is just tired of it. I'm just exhausted by it. I don't get these people. I don't understand them. I will them no harm, but they have been the thorn in our country's side for a very long time. And I think we're just all really tired of it. And now, it's causing, when somebody does that, and to that level of yelling at people and spitting at people, there's, like, you just have to think, what went on with that person and them growing up, that they felt that that's how it was okay to act towards another human being. And then, the impact that they're now having on healthcare workers, just this complete indifference to your fellow human being. And then of course business, it's just this domino effect, businesses have to close down all over again, and people's livelihoods are gone. And people's lives are gone.
And if somebody who is supposed to be in the top leadership position doesn't wear a mask or gives conflicting messages about the mask, even after finally that person puts on the mask, if you believe in what he's saying, then you're going to say, well, if he doesn't have to wear the mask, why? It's my right not to. So bizarre. I just think it's absolutely bizarre. If you care about one single other person outside of yourself, in fact, if you care about yourself, put the mask on. Because then,
and even aside from the mask, it's like this has not been a federally led organization to address COVID. It's all been state by state, and I think that is why the United States is in the state that it's in, unfortunately.
Well, it seemed to be the strategy to push the responsibility out to the states and take responsibility away from the federal government. We could, of course, talk about that stuff all day long. In episode 2 of our conversation, we break down COVID and the federal response. But I did want to end on one more fun note. Now, a lot of people have done things during quarantine that they said they would, like, I'm going to pick up a new language or play an instrument or something like that. Now, I know you started Women in Production, and I know you already have a full plate of stuff. But speaking of plates, did you decide, I'm going to pick up that spatula, and I've always wanted to explore my culinary arts side of me, or I see the kitchen. If you're going to pull some bread out of the kitchen, I'm going to be very impressed. But that seems to be something.
Bread. So, I don't do bread. So there's that.
Yeah. A friend of mine started a sourdough business during this. Like, he was doing it for fun. He was doing it for fun before this. And then people were like, well, now that and he's a musician, and they're like, now that you're not working, maybe you should start selling your sourdough. And everybody who is a fan of his or a friend of his, anywhere within driving distance of where he is in Nashville, is buying his bread. So I think it's pretty cool that he's been able. He's a professional musician, like some of my friends there at Hank Lane I mentioned earlier, but he's now a professional artisan bread maker.
See, you get to discover something new that you never thought you would be doing before. As far as I've gotten is I bought an Instant Pot. That was it.
Okay.
So I've just been learning how to use that. Yeah. I made chicken mole at home, which I've never done before.
All right.
And I'm a big fan of being of indigenous heritage on my mom's side of the family. I still have a dream of going to Oaxaca and learning how to make mole from them directly, but so I cheated and went to a Mexican market and bought the mole.
Yeah,
so, but I made chicken mole in my Instant Pot. It probably isn't how my ancestors did it, but that's me in 2020.
Well, if it was south of your house, even if it was like 2 minutes south of your house, you still headed towards Mexico. So that was.
I didn't. I went downtown. I went to the market downtown. So no.
Yeah. Well, one day we'll all
have
get
that.
Yeah, I would love to get to Oaxaca when this is all over and try some real chicken mole and have some mezcal and.
Oh my goodness, sounds amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so why don't you tell us how we can find out more about Inside Out, first of all, because that was a very important.
And that's on Kaffeine Buzz. So Kaffeine, Kaffeinebuzz.com.
Okay.
And you can find Inside Out on there. And also you can find out more about FestiFi at festi.co. FESTIFI. Boy, FESTIFI.co. I've only said that a million times, and I still have to think about it in my head.
It's the .co that throws you off.
I have to fault Damon Schroeberger, the founder of the company, for doing that. I'm like, dude, what's up with the CO? I'm trying to be different. And then Women in Production will be available on womeninproduction.live. So we were just about to post we're just about to go live with our kind of coming soon page. So I'm severely behind on so many things with Women in Production. So I just have to, that's the other thing I've learned, is to have more patience with myself. That I can't do everything all the time and get good sleep and take care of myself. So self-care is also very, very important for all of us during this time.
Self-care, meditation, try to make that chicken mole if you can. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Festival Pass Stories, and this was Kim Owens, the great Kim Owens, who continues to get greater every day by adding one more slash to that, more things that she's doing for women in production, for people who have been incarcerated, and just looking out for her fellow man and woman. So Kim Owens, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Pat. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Take care. This is Festival Pass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next.